Ah, tier lists. Some of the most profitable content on YouTube, and something fighting game players absolutely cannot shut up about. Who's top 1? Who's the worst character? Do I main an honest mid-tier? And so on. At the same time people are worrying about this, some people will tell them that worrying about this is stupid since tiers don't matter until the highest level of play. Well, as somebody who's won Guilty Gear and Street Fighter tournaments, used to place pretty well in large Smash tournaments, and can do epic Ginyu combos on command, I feel pretty qualified to talk about this. So, let's find out when tiers actually matter. I think you'll find that at the absolute beginner level, tier lists can actually have a bit of an inverse effect. For example, a while ago I brought Street Fighter 6 over to my buddy's house. He's not very good at fighting games, so I decided to play Zangief, considered to be the worst character in the game in Season 1. However, because my friend didn't know how to properly structure his pressure, I could just mash SPD and get that big boy damage, while somebody who knows more about the game would know how to properly space their pressure, or jump to make this not an issue. You can see this with a lot of what we'll call noob trap characters, like Ganondorf in Smash Ultimate. Yeah, sure, his gigantic swords kill you at early percentages, but what's this I see? 29 frames of startup, and a very obvious animation on a character that's slow as dirt to begin with. Oh me oh my. So yeah, while a lot of beginner players may have trouble with or complain about Ganondorf, he's essentially not even a character once you get into the higher levels of play. Simply due to the fact it's incredibly unlikely for somebody adept at the game to get hit by his attacks in the first place. For one last example, let's look at some footage of a recent Plus R tournament that was comprised of mostly beginners. While Plus R has the obvious god trio of Testament, Baiken, and Zappa, some will try to claim that Chip is actually the secret fourth god. However, due to his minuscule HP and many advanced techniques, he simply won't work in the hands of a beginner. In this match, you can see that despite playing a top 4 character, this player is absolutely getting smacked by Mei. Since neither players are really doing combos or have much intentionality behind their neutral, damage is king. So despite Mei being not the best in Plus R, this is a fairly easy win at this level of play because of Mei's high damage buttons. This means that tiers can sometimes matter in a reverse way, even at the lowest level of play. But does that answer the question of the video, since it's not really what most people mean when they talk about tier lists?
Well, technically, nah.
We all know what a tier list means. If you're in the top tier, you're the best, and if you're in the bottom tier, you're stinky doo-doo. However, the definition of top and bottom can change from game to game. For example, let's look at Storm from Marvel vs. Capcom 2, often considered to be the best character in the game. Storm has far-reaching buttons that allow her to combo easily no matter where she is on the screen, projectile options, innate way air dash, can easily combo into super for big damage, has an unreactable high-low mix, has a safe super that covers the entire screen and deals great chip damage, which also gives her incredibly potent DHE potential. She can also air dash, well...
He can fly! He can talk!
So yeah, Storm has a lot going for her. Now let's look at what Roll can do. So, my gentle viewer, do you think that there might be a difference between these characters? Leave a comment if you thought the Roll combo I did was frickin' epic. On the other hand, in Guilty Gear Strive, the low tiers still have some things going for them that don't make them irrelevant. As of writing this, Johnny is considered to be kinda low tier, but he still gets an incredibly deadly situation off of knockdown with his card setup, where he's incredibly plus and can't get hit by reversals. He also has other good attributes, like long ranged normals. So, if you wanted to pick Johnny, it's not an active handicap like picking Roll. On the other hand, one of the game's top tiers, Soul Bad Guy, does not have an 8-way air dash, does not have high-low mix without meter, or full screen super that's safe. He still has a ton of good attributes which make him top tier, like a 3-frame kick, which only ties with one other move for the fastest move in the game, but he's not going to hit you with a literal infinite combo. If a Johnny and a Soul player that are around the same skill level fight, it's still going to, you know, be an actual fight. So while this video is speaking more in a general sense about tiers, when considering if you should follow the classic advice of
I pick the top tier, just pick a top tier.
It's important to consider the actual gap between highs and lows in the game you're playing. Nobody's gonna clown on you for picking Johnny in Strive, but maybe just don't pick Little Mac in a game where the best characters can kill you off of one touch and the entire character is invalidated just by doing this. At the end of the day, it depends on how top the top tiers actually are.
Bring that naked PA out here now! Get him away from me! Woo! Woo! I'm on top! I'm on top! I'm on top!
The mid-level of play is incredibly hard to define. What's the cutoff point between a fella who sucks real bad and a fella who only sucks a teeny tiny little bit? I think it's best to use myself as a frame of reference, as I do have the ability to win tournaments for several games at a local level, but I do eat massive amounts of dirt when I start fighting actual top players. So I think it's pretty fair to use my perspective for this. So, do tiers matter at the mid-level of play?
Well, technically, nah.
From my experience, at least. In Street Fighter 6, I play JP, who is one of the best characters in Season 1, and would often lose to mid-tier characters like Kimberly at my local. On the other hand, I play Chip in Strive, often considered a mid-tier as of writing this, and at my local I have to plow through top characters like Nagaryuki. While at this level, players know what their general game plan is, can execute their combos consistently, know how to play during different matchups, and can have some good qualities like really good reaction times, but they don't have the entire package that top players have, like god-tier execution and prediction skills that allow them to truly bring out the full potential of the characters. For example, there's a Kami player at my local that will always react to drive impact no matter what. You will never land a stray drive impact on them. However, they never place that well despite this good quality. This is because of course they have negative qualities too, like getting hit by the same mix over and over again. A top player, however, would have this player's good reactions in neutral and a good defense. Not to diss the player I'm describing, I have my own share of flaws, like an unhealthy addiction to run up Dragon Punch. What I mean is, we're not pushing these characters to their absolute limits. So while a character like Gold Lewis may currently have a higher limit than Chip, if me and my opponents are playing around this level of play, our skill will not surpass the limits of what our characters can do. And since neither of us can really exploit what makes our characters potentially broken, the match is about even. That's not to say that individual character strength is completely irrelevant at this level of play. Nagaryuki still has better qualities than Elfelt after all, and it's still important to be familiar with top tier matchups if you plan on competing, even if you're a mid-level player. Because of tier list culture, top tiers are usually still the most common characters you'll see, even at the mid-level. Even if the player you're fighting can't bring out their full potential. At the mid-level, it's just easier to exploit the weaknesses of individual players to overcome things such as tier differences, so they matter a lot less at this level than a whiner on Twitter would have you believe. For example, I actually lost my last local to a Potemkin player, a character which has never won a Strive Major, because of their impressive ability to adapt to my mix-ups, and me getting a bit impatient and going for silly jump-ins. So if you're looking to get into your local scene, don't be afraid to bust out your epic Manon skills. It's easy to see why any player would pick a top tier. If winning is your primary objective, it makes sense to pick the characters that give you the greatest chance of doing so. That begs the question though, why would a top level player pick a character that's not top tier? Well, the obvious answer is because they enjoy playing as them, but what are the actual tactical advantages of playing a low tier? Well, the answer to that is unknown. Literally, I mean a lack of knowledge. For example, I've fought 50 trillion Kens in Street Fighter 6. So I know for a fact that after he uses the Dragon Lash, I can use Amnesia to reverse the situation. If somebody's playing, I don't know, Lily on the other hand, I am much less sure on how to proceed. So that player might get away with a lot more unsafe stuff than I should reasonably let them, since I just don't know the matchup. For a high-level look at this, let's look at the Exard player GC Yoshi. He's a very talented Exard player who often places in the top 8 of tournaments. He also plays Bedman, often considered to be in the bottom 5. Here's the thing though, Bedman is a very strange character, and GC Yoshi is the only person on Earth that actually picks them. Don't fact check me on this, just trust me bro. Bedman has a lot of strange tricks that are abnormal compared to the rest of the cast, and if you're not prepared for them, things can get out of hand very quickly. But why would anyone be prepared for them? Nobody plays Bedman. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Picking uncommon characters can sometimes be a great boon. I play Ginyu in Fighterz, another very rare character. He's definitely not low tier anymore, but still an odd pick. He has the rare ability to interrupt combos, something that most players are not prepared for. Let's ask my mate and talented player Poison Jam what he thinks of Ginyu. So Poison Jam, you're a pretty professional gamer, right? You won a few of the tournaments here?
Of course, yes, of course. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I have won before.
And how many hours do you have in Dragon Ball Fighterz?
I do have at least 4,000 hours in Dragon Ball Fighterz.
Okay, and how many other Ginyus do you fight besides me?
I mean, like, you're basically the only one.
And how many times do you let Purple Comet Crash interrupt your combos?
Too many times. I estimate like 95% of my combos, 75% of neutral, my block strings, my divorce, everything's interrupted by Purple Comet. Like, I can't fathom.
And how does this make you feel whenever it happens?
I want to krill myself.
Of course, there are ways to get around Ginyu's gimmicks, it's just that this information isn't known or practiced by most players. However, I will say that relying solely on gimmicks is not a good idea if you're competing in tournaments. There are lab beasts like Justin Wong who will extensively lab every single character in whatever game they're playing, and know the game like the back of their hand. So if you do rely solely on gimmicks, you're unlikely to get very far. A fundamental skill level is still needed. It's just a nice little advantage that lower tier or rarer characters can have. As a quick aside before getting into the top level of play, strong system mechanics can be a great equalizer. It doesn't matter what tier your character is in Street Fighter 6, if you think JP is going to throw a projectile, from this distance you can just power straight through that bad boy and get an optimal punish. The Guilty Gear series of games has a literal pause button that allows for better reactions. Then of course, there's Fighters, where every character besides Roshi has a homing attack that goes through projectiles and acts as a combo starter. Every character can also teleport after hitting a projectile to start a combo, so no character in this game truly struggles to get a combo started, unlike a certain somebody. And there are great players like Garlic Bread who can get work done with strange teams that include characters like Krillin. So, games with strong system mechanics tend to have a bit more of a varied character selection. That's not always the case though, as it can still depend on how whack your top tiers are. Parry from Street Fighter Third Strike is probably one of the strongest system mechanics ever conceived, allowing you to negate any attack if your timing's right, but top 8s will still look like this since Yun and Chun-Li are simply built different. Speaking of top 8s that look like this, well, here we are, folks, the top level of play, domain of the most elite gamers, the land of Zero May Cry, Bayonetta Ditto Grand Finals, and a whole lot of top 8s that look like this. Like I said earlier, it makes sense. If you're a top player who has a chance of winning a lot, and I emphasize, a lot of prize money in major tournaments, why wouldn't you pick the best characters? Remember that cute little graphic I had earlier with the limits thing? Yeah, if you're at this level of competition, you're going to want to use characters with higher limits since you're actually skilled enough to be able to get the most out of them. I mean, just look at the recent EVO 2024 Third Strike Finals. Move was playing Alina for most of the tournament, a pretty meh character, but got shamoned by Issei, a young player, for the first 2 games of Grand Finals. This led to Move switching over to Chun, previously stated to be built different, and winning the whole thing. It'd be pretty silly to play a character that holds you back at this level. So, do tiers matter at the highest level of play?
Well, technically,
Tiers absolutely do matter at this level of play. That's the end all be all, end of the video, bye bye, is what I would say if that were 100% true. Because, ladies and gentlemen of the court, the World Finals of Tekken, considered to be one of the hardest fighting game series, with some of the stiffest competition imaginable, was once won by a player using the worst character in the game, even causing the director of the series to become incredibly confused.
Panda. Really?
This isn't an isolated incident either. Zane, a Melee player, once won a tournament with pretty good players in it with Roy, who's garbage in Melee. Mr. Controller Chucker over here dominated Europe with Mewtwo for a little while. Nitro just won EVO with the Jacko, a character that's never really been in the discussion for top 5 in Strive. Kane Blue River, a successful Marvel 3 player, rides a team with Hulk and Sentinel, 2 characters that are quite uncommon in a game that's usually dominated by the approaching storm, which you probably already know if you're clicking on a video about fighting games. So what gives? If tiers matter at the highest level of play, then why can these players still succeed? Well, ladies and gentlemen, if fighting games were determined solely by what character you picked, nobody would play them because that'd be really damn boring. Skill is still the end-all be-all. Displays of incredible skill are what makes this genre so damn fun to watch and play. While playing a top tier is still greatly beneficial at this level of play, if you're simply goated, it's possible to overcome the gap. It doesn't matter what team the average viewer of this video is using in Marvel 2, you're still gonna lose to Justin Wong. So, what's the takeaway? Yes, while tier lists are fun to make and watch, for most players they simply don't matter. Even at a level of play where they do matter, you can still succeed with off-meta picks if you simply gap your opponent. This isn't common, as most top players will usually stick with what works, but on the occasions when they don't, it can lead to something truly special, and moments people will remember forever.
Danger! Chip! Oh my god, no! 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 Okay. Oh! Oh my god! Oh my god! How did he do that? He went past the SA3! He went for the roundhouse! He jumped over completely! Do you understand? That is a work.
So my brothers and sisters, remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, since it helps the video, and these take a lot of time to make. Special thanks to my patrons DS Coda and Ginger. But most importantly, remember to stop complaining about Gold Lewis on Twitter, and start practicing your roll combos, because the Rollvolution is coming.